Oh, that has to be the Prime player.
This is the Prime player. This is MarineKing. He lifts his command center. He's going straight to the gold patches.
MarineKing with a boss mode. Oh my god, I love this. And I will just jump in for a second.
MarineKing Prime.
Okay, I have to say why I love this so much. This is just his style. This is, of course, the starting play here for the Prime team. Left us speechless here for a second. But his opposing player to the bottom right of the map is, of course, for AxiomAcer.
Ryung.
Okay, MarineKing has a history of doing this. There were a lot of maps in the past where there were gold mineral patches. One of the maps, for example, was, and as I was saying...
Metalopolis?
No, Antigua Shipyard.
Oh, Antigua Shipyard
Antigua
as well, yeah.
Shipyard was one of those maps where MarineKing loved to do this. There were gold mineral patches in the middle of the map, up to the point where the GSTL and other leagues started to change that. And MarineKing, he has a history of lifting his command center and flying it to the gold mineral patches. And seeing him do this now on a map like Icarus makes me feel so nostalgic. This is actually awesome. This is the MarineKing we all love.
Yeah, this is great. I'm just watching the income, and MarineKing is closing the gap very, very quickly now, pulling ahead just a little bit. Obviously losing a lot of harvesters for a brief period of time, but now getting the extra patches, microing his SCV as well. And now he's going to have the rich geyser as well, which is really important to note. This is even more important, I think, than the 2 mineral patches, because the mineral patches here are helping him keep even with Ryung, but the gas is where he's going to start to really pull ahead.
And with this build that he chose, or with this opening strategy, you can really see that he immediately made sure that he has on the gold mineral patches 2 SCVs. This is, of course, really important to just maximize the income. Here, once again, we have it on screen. So far, Ryung is still a little bit ahead, but the gas will come into play, as just highlighted by Wolf. So a very interesting opening by MarineKing.
Yeah, so to give you guys numbers, every time he takes a trip from the gold mineral patches, that's 7 minerals, and every time he takes one from the rich geyser, it's 6 gas. So he's getting, of course, just a little bit more resources than his opponent right now, especially in gas. He has an insane gas income right now, triple his opponent.
Ryung saw it, and he's just looking at this like, what the heck is going on here? And of course, he realized what was happening. So now he's probably a little bit surprised, and it's going to be interesting to see how Ryung reacts to this.
Yeah, this is really, really interesting.
Because I actually think that he doesn't know how this is going to change all the timings. I mean, why would he? This is something that we've certainly seen for the first time.
Yeah, this is very new, very unusual. And MarineKing goes into a Reaper opening here. We'll see if he starts a second Reaper. Doesn't look like it. Now goes into a factory and starts a reactor. So he's going to be doing very aggressive Hellion build here.
And this changes everything. In a Terran versus Terran, you're usually well aware of what timings an opponent can hit, when exactly he's going to have his expansion, when the first medivacs are out there, when he could go into your main base with Hellions, with whatever, maybe a drop with Widow Mines or Hellbats. But this is completely different, and Ryung is probably just looking at this and asking himself, how much does this affect his income?
Yeah. That's what he's trying to figure out right now, and he's going to have to play a weird defensive game right now. He does go for a pretty safe command center and starts his own factory now, so as long as he's careful and patient, he should be able to defend what MarineKing throws at him, but it's just a weird feeling, and MarineKing is kind of getting into his head a little bit with this strategy.
I love this. This is just a classic MarineKing that he's pulling here, and it is awesome. And it's been quite some time when I've seen this for last time. I think it was actually when I came to Korea and online cast of the ESWC that they had when he did it last time that I saw him do it. But this is going to be awesome. We have, of course, now for Ryung already the expansion. MarineKing is expanding into his main base now.
Yeah, he's going to take his own main, and he's going to have, of course, the full range of mineral patches there. And we have, for MarineKing, a Hellbat drop. He's going into the armory right now. He already has the reactor set up for his starport. He could go into a regular Hellion drop first, and then go into the Hellbats, which it looks like he's going to do here as he's moving his Hellions across the map right now.
Yeah, the armory is on the way. Of course, this reveals the strategy for MarineKing. And this is going to be really interesting. So far, it really looks like MarineKing benefits from a lot more gas that he was mining here as well. So he got the refinery a little bit earlier than his opponent, but he is still behind in harvesters.
Yeah, still behind in harvesters at 20 to 25. But now that his second command center is done, he will be able to start SCVs. There has to make an orbital first.
MarineKing with a double Viking here. This will help him a lot. Usually when you're a Terran player and you are afraid that your opponent might drop you, you get one Viking, and then you, of course, try to shut down the medivacs as soon as possible. With a double Viking, we suddenly have MarineKing in a position where he can take down Ryung's anti-air and then just camp the starport, or at least make sure that another Viking would not be able to do anything either.
Yeah, this is very true. I really like this. And even before he goes out to attack, he can use both Vikings to defend against any possible drop play that Ryung sends his way. So he sends them into both directions, one to the north, one to the south. And speaking of Ryung's aggression, he's sending these Hellions out a little bit right now. He wants to scout the Hellbats.
Yeah, but the Hellions on top of the ramp, they are just a little bit too good. You know what MarineKing could also do? He could try, if there's an opening, to maybe even land the Vikings, go into assault mode and do a bit of damage to the SCVs at the natural or in the main base. I was thinking for a long time if we would see this a little bit more often, if Blizzard would maybe change the transition time from a flight mode to assault mode a little bit. That would be really interesting. That's one of those changes that is probably never going to come into play, but it's something I was wondering about. But
yeah, it's definitely a good talking point. There's so much possibility for Vikings as it is, but if they were changed a little bit more, I think they could definitely be stronger. He could try to use the Vikings to distract Ryung as well at the natural, for example, and then drop in the main when his units are pulled. We'll see what he does here. Ryung knows something's coming. He's very, very defensive at pulling all of his units in the main.
And here we go, MarineKing trying to hit that timing with those Hellbats. He has the Vikings in position. They have been scouted by Ryung, and Ryung already has the third Viking out. MarineKing isn't here just yet, and here we go. The first shots go up. Both of the Hellbats are on the ground, and now Ryung has to be really careful.
Yeah, Ryung has to be careful. He splits his units perfectly, though.
Great.
Takes out the Hellbats with no problem, but more Hellbats are walking in. It's not over yet.
But he is a lot faster with those Hellions, and he's just kiting the Hellbats. Ryung with a great defense here. MarineKing dropping in supply already down to 47 against 63.
Yep, really, really nice defense by Ryung. He had the Vikings out. He killed one of the medevacs almost instantly and was able to kill one of the Hellbats that was inside of it. And then he just split his units like a champ against the attack.
Against Hellbat, it is so important that you split your units, that you use the range that you have with the normal Hellions, and that you make sure that you always kite as much as you can, since Hellbats are quite slow, and also with a reduced range, they are not really... You can't really get close to your opponent if he micros well, and this is exactly what Ryung showcased.
Now, MarineKing is in a terrible position. He doesn't have a third command center, which is something that Ryung is already morphing into an orbital right now. He has more production, he has siege tanks out, and he's just looking very, very comfortable right now. We have Stim on the way for him as well. He's just going to sit back and take his lead. He's ahead in supply, he's ahead in workers, and MarineKing is going to have to make something happen here with really good drop play, for example, or maybe even just catching him out of position in the middle of the map to be able to catch up here.
And MarineKing's opening here with the lift at the command center looked quite sexy, but Ryung, on the other hand, he reacted perfectly here. And he had all the answers, so MarineKing is now really in a tough spot. And it just shows how good Ryung is at defending. This guy is such a crazy good player. We have him with the double upgrades now, of course, also with the Stim. So time is running out for MarineKing.
Yeah, he really needs to make something happen here, and he's going to try for it. Going out across the map right now with all 10 of his Hellbats, 4 of them in the medevac, 6 of them on the ground. And he may be able to catch Ryung off guard here, but if he doesn't do massive damage, and he's already been scouted, if he doesn't do massive damage here, he's going to lose this game.
That was a great SCV. He had the SCV in position, and it scouted the attempt of MarineKing to put pressure on him once more. Here come now the Vikings. Good, getting the first shot off, and this, of course, makes sure that he can snipe that medevac as soon as he moves in.
Yeah, and he baited the boost as well.
If he doesn't take out those Vikings, and that's exactly what he's trying to do now.
Great snipe there by MarineKing, forces the land as well, but there's so many siege tanks in position, this is not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but at least he has the air dominant force here. He can, with those the Vikings, do quite a bit.
Good scan here, lets him know the drop is no longer part of the army, so he knows it's going to come from a different angle. He has a turret in place to the north.
The first few siege tank shots are being cut off here, but we have the medevacs trying to move in.
Yep, coming into the north here. Turret targets the wrong one, and he will actually get all 4 Hellions out, but what are they going to be able to do here? He needs to pull the SCVs.
The medevacs are already gone, and those Hellbats are immediately being attacked. Great play here by Ryung.
Now, Ryung just shuts this one down yet again. Very little damage taken. His command center that he made, his third command center, is kind of floating around, hidden to the south. He wanted to make sure MarineKing did not spot that. Now he's going to be able to move it over and land it.
I like it, though. I mean, this is something that was really smart. He realized that MarineKing would pressure him again and decided to just float it back a little bit so that it wasn't scouted. If MarineKing scouts the command center and takes it down with Vikings and, of course, the Hellbats, then Ryung is in a bad spot, since MarineKing has also a third command center.
Yeah.
But in this case, you can really see that Ryung is starting to pull a little bit ahead, especially with the upgrades that he has.
A very, very careful and calculated game by Ryung. And the army supply is actually slightly in favor of Ryung, but his composition is much, much better. MarineKing basically has pure Hellbats. He is starting to get some siege tanks out right now, but there's way more tanks in the army of Ryung. 4-to-1 right now.
4-to-1 tanks, and let's not forget about the upgrades that he has here with the 1-1. He did start the +2 armor upgrade, and also Combat Shield is lining up very well. Also concussive shells.
Yeah,
Just
it looks
about
like
to finish.
he probably tried to make the attack, but didn't have enough resources at the time and didn't realize it.
The Vikings scout the third base, but they don't go into assault mode. Ryung was already there with a small task force to make sure that wouldn't happen.
Now, this is really, really tense for MarineKing right now. He's a little bit contained. He's trying to make something work with his Vikings, but he's stuck, and he can't really pressure Ryung directly because if he tries to go down his ramp, then he's going to get caught. The one thing he could try to do is do a big lift out of his main with dropships, but he doesn't have enough drops.
The scans are great here, revealing everything, and this is not an army that you want to engage, at least not at this point. 23 Hellbats. MarineKing is adding even more now.
He's going to actually just go for it here, running in.
Dropping on top of the siege tanks with the Hellbats closing the distance.
Yeah, and he actually closes the gap quite nicely in supply here, taking out the tanks eventually, but there's just too much bio.
The bio is really his biggest problems with all those upgrades as well. They're just moving in, taking apart one Hellbat after another, and the siege tanks, they won't be able to stop this, I feel.
And the Vikings the Vikings just really did not participate in that fight. They kind of flew over to the side. If they were on the ground, maybe it could have turned the tide.
That's suddenly a 40 supply lead that Ryung has here against his opponent, and he's moving into the main base now. Here comes the Mana Mule being called down, and MarineKing is even pulling SCVs.
Yeah, he's pulling SCVs here, trying to micro his Hellbats, but it's just not enough. Even a repair on the siege tank there. MarineKing is making 6 Hellbats at a time. He's trying to spin his resources. He's trying to close that gap in supply again, but the momentum that Ryung has with that third base is just too much for him. He's about to have +2 armor as well.
There's no way for MarineKing to really claim a third base. That's something that he just can't do with Ryung being down at his own ramp. So this is one of the things where MarineKing just... he can't do anything. He's basically just waiting there to die. He wants to move out and take a third, but he can't because Ryung is in position. Sieged up with one tank, rallying more across the map to the top left. The only chance that MarineKing has is this drop that we see now.
Yeah, and he could actually kill a ton of SCVs here. There's no real defense. There's only one Marauder, and he gets a lot of SCVs there. Not able to finish them off, though.
Yeah, he gets quite a few of them, but you can see that the Hellbats are just not fast enough. And now the next few of units for Ryung are moving in, trying to take down those Hellbats. But he has to be careful. He needs to micro them.
Yeah, and it looks like MarineKing will lose one of those Hellbats there on the ground, but he boosts over, trying to catch some more of these SCVs. He doesn't have a lot of room to work with. There's turrets, there's a lot of bio.
Yeah, Ryung doesn't leave himself open to any kind of counter-aggression. And MarineKing even trying to take out the base at the bottom left with his floating command center.
This is pretty risky, but it's smart considering that he's so desperate at this moment in time. It's hard for Ryung to finish the game because MarineKing does have a lot of siege tanks up on the high ground as natural, and if he can hide that base down there to the left and keep it unscouted while continuing to harass, maybe, just maybe, he can get himself back into this game.
Yeah, he's 50 supply behind his opponent, and just look at the upgrades that we are seeing for Ryung. Going into +3 armor already, the second armor upgrade is done, and the attack upgrade is already halfway through. MarineKing, on the other hand, is trying to go into the additional mech upgrades and finally has the base at the bottom left. That's something that could be troublesome for Ryung if he doesn't scout it and work under false assumptions.
Yeah, very true. If he works under false assumptions like we saw yesterday with Jockji versus Hurricane,
oh yeah,
this sort of thing can actually lose you games, but it's been scouted, and he comes in here, no way to save that command center. It's already very low on hit points.
I think he saw it floating early on, and now Ryung is moving in, taking out the tanks on the higher ground at the cliff.
And the Vikings try to push him back. That's one advantage MarineKing has. He does have control over the skies, which makes it very difficult for Ryung to finish him off. Look at all that energy on the command center, though, wasted all the mules.
Ryung has a 4th base at this point, and he knows that time is working in his favor. There is no reason for him to try to bully his way up the ramp. He can play a very cautious and slow game here.
Yeah, even has the sensor turret up. Then he will probably start to make turrets very soon around MarineKing's base so that he can't do things like this to boost his medevacs out. I mean, look at those SCVs just sitting there. He doesn't even know what to do with them. He can't get them out of his base. He looks like he's going to go for one final attack with this flank, but he's been scouted. Oh, no! Oh, is he gonna? Does he realize it? Is he going to go for it?
I don't think he saw it, did he?
Very much, barely not, but now he goes.
He's trying everything. MarineKing once again with the drops. He's moving in, dropping those Hellbats.
A ton of AoE damage here. MarineKing trying to break through. His tanks are having some trouble at the natural, though.
He's going for the flank, but the siege tank line of Ryung is still going strong.
Yeah, Ryung is going to eventually push this back. GG.